At one point, Kodak didn't just dominate photography. It completely controlled how the world captured, stored, and remembered its most important moments. With nearly 90% of film sales in the United States, Kodak built one of the most powerful and profitable business systems the industry had ever seen. Every photo taken meant more film, more processing, and more profit, creating a closed ecosystem that seemed almost impossible to disrupt. But inside its own labs, Kodak had already built something far more powerful than its existing system. A technology that would eventually destroy that entire film-based ecosystem from within. In 1975, Steven Sasson created the world's first digital camera, proving that photography would one day exist without film. Kodak didn't lose because it missed the future. It actually saw the future clearly, years before anyone else, and still chose not to act on it when it mattered most. Lesson 1. Innovation alone is meaningless. Because even the most groundbreaking ideas fail if they are not executed at the right time. Kodak didn't lack innovation. It actually created the future of photography, decades before the market was even ready to understand its true potential or use it at scale. But instead of leading that change, it delayed it, allowing competitors to move faster and take control of the emerging digital space. In fast-moving industries, timing matters more than invention, because the first to act is often the one who wins, not the first to discover the idea in the first place. The market doesn't reward potential, it rewards execution, and execution always favors those willing to move early and decisively. Kodak had the idea. It knew what the future of photography would be, but others had the courage to act faster, and that's what changed everything. Lesson 2. Success can quietly become dangerous because it creates confidence, and over time, that confidence turns into blind spots. Kodak's dominance made it believe its position was secure, stable, and far less vulnerable than it actually was. When companies lead for too long, they slowly stop questioning their own decisions. And that's exactly when real risk begins to build quietly beneath the surface, without anyone noticing. The real danger isn't failure itself, it's believing failure is no longer possible. Because that's the exact moment adaptation stops, and companies quietly start falling behind. Kodak didn't underestimate technology, it underestimated how fast the world would adopt it once it became viable. And by the time Kodak realized the shift, the gap had already become too large to recover. Because in fast-moving industries, timing decides everything. Lesson 3. Disruption is inevitable. And if a company refuses to disrupt itself, someone else will step in and do it instead, without waiting for permission. Kodak had the opportunity to lead digital photography, but chose to protect its film business instead. That decision created space for others, including companies like Sony, to move in quickly, invest heavily in digital, and eventually take the lead in shaping the next phase of the industry. And once competitors gain momentum, catching up becomes exponentially harder, no matter how strong your past position was. Disruption doesn't wait for permission, and it doesn't slow down for established leaders, who hesitate to change when the market is already moving forward. The only real defense against disruption is to lead it yourself, even if it means replacing the very success that built your position in the first place. Because protecting the present can feel safe. It feels stable, predictable, and even necessary at the time. But over time, that same safety often comes at the cost of losing the future entirely. Kodak chose to defend what it had, instead of building what was coming next. And that decision defined its outcome. Lesson 4. The more successful a business model becomes, the harder it is to walk away from it, even when it starts becoming outdated. Because protecting the present can feel safe. It feels stable, predictable, and even necessary at the time. But over time, that same safety often comes at the cost of losing the future entirely. This created a conflict between short-term profit and long-term survival, and Kodak chose to protect the short-term. But markets don't care about existing business models. They evolve based on technology, convenience, and consumer behavior. And when a business model becomes outdated, holding onto it doesn't preserve success, it accelerates decline. The harder a company tries to protect a dying model, the more it resists change, and the faster it loses relevance in a world that is already moving on without it. Kodak wasn't trapped by the market. It wasn't the competition that held it back. It was trapped by its own dependence on a system it had built, and its refusal to replace that system even when the world had already moved on. And by the time Kodak tried to adapt, the system it had built was already outdated, and it had lost its place in the future long before it could respond. Lesson 5. Change doesn't happen slowly anymore. It accelerates, and companies that move too late often don't get a second chance. Digital photography didn't replace film overnight, but once adoption started, it moved faster than Kodak was prepared for. And then smartphones accelerated that shift even further, making photography instant, accessible, and completely independent of traditional systems. When multiple changes happen at once, industries don't slowly evolve anymore. They transform completely in a very short period of time, often faster than companies can understand what's happening around them. Kodak was reacting to change, while others were driving it. And that difference determines who leads and who falls behind. Speed isn't just an advantage anymore, it's a requirement, especially in industries driven by technology, innovation, and constant change that never slows down. The longer a company waits, the harder adaptation becomes, because the gap keeps growing with every passing moment, making recovery increasingly difficult. And eventually, that gap becomes impossible to close, no matter how strong the company once was, or how dominant it had been in the past. Kodak's story isn't just about failure. It's a case study in how even the most dominant companies can collapse if they fail to evolve. It shows that leadership is not about maintaining control. It's about continuously adapting to where the world is going next. Because control without adaptation slowly turns into decline, even for the strongest companies. Because in business, no position is permanent, and no company is too big to fail if it stops moving forward. The companies that survive are not the ones that avoid change, but the ones that embrace it before it becomes unavoidable. And the moment a company chooses comfort over evolution, it feels safe at first, even successful. But that's exactly the moment it quietly begins its own decline. Welcome to the Autopsy Lab, dissecting the rise and collapse of giants.